national emergency operations structure?
Well, joint initiatives, whether it is during a disaster or any kind of situation, are always important. It's always important for us to maintain a good relationship with our other agencies, whether it be other government agencies or even private entities, because those relationships, they form a bond, and it allows us to work closely and better together as a team. In the event of national disaster.
I mean, we really can't do this by ourselves. No department can do a response by themselves. We have to work together. But again, creating these kind of relationships in blue skies, working together, having plans in place that actually talk to each other. Right. The plans, I mean, again, we can have plans, if a department has a plan that doesn't fit in the national structure, we're going to struggle. So making sure this is very, very open and transparent beforehand. And again, it's much more fun working together, and we can really, use each other's resources and wisdom and knowledge to make sure the response is a good one.
Right. What lessons have been learned? I know you've traveled to your neighboring jurisdictions. Would you say you've taken away, even though we pray that we're not hit like our neighboring islands, what have you taken away from what you see us have in place, be it in manuals, simulations that we've done, in comparison to they may have had it in a book, but when it actually happened, everything just...
everything goes out the window. I mean, the plans are awesome to have. It's really important we have plans in place, but I think my main lessons, and executing them, and practicing them on a regular basis, because there's only so much. If you have a plan in place that you haven't practiced for years, it's not really any good whatsoever. And again, communicated with others, with other agencies. I think my main takeaways over the last, the Irma experience was very much to expect the unexpected. So yes, you plan, but you need to be very flexible and adapt to whatever the situation is. Use your initiative. Again, those working relationships are so key at that, because you can have a plan in place, but unless you're, working closely with your partners, it really means very little.
How does it feel to be... Sorry, go ahead, Teresita.
I think one of the biggest difference with Cayman is that with our structure, we include every possible agency. Because what I've seen in some of the workshops that I've done overseas, is that a lot of the islands don't include departments such as the tourism department or health services. So there's a lot of segregation in terms of how they do their operations as opposed to what Cayman does. Yes. We have everyone inside of one room that can communicate with each other. The plans are all in line with each other, and there's no overlooking of certain tasks or information that needs to get out. So I think that's our strength, is that we made sure to include every possible agency that would respond to any event, not just hurricanes, but earthquakes, tsunamis, a cruise ship incident. So I think we have a foot up in that respect.
Yes, definitely. We don't want to ever have to execute.
No.
But if we have, you should be assured that in your roles that you have support and you have that connectivity with all the relevant agencies, stakeholders, and most important, the people.
Correct.
Now that takes us into communication. Now, during the most intense moments when a disaster is unfolding, how vital is communication for the RCIPS to be fully versed in all communication systems within your department and getting important information out to residents quickly? Understand you're competing with other media sources.
Well, I think I'm going to hand this one over to Danielle, because she has the plan on the communication side.
Communications is absolutely key. Now, again, going back to that Irma experience, the communications over there in BVI were really difficult. This, of course, impacts the response, because, again, if you can't get the word out, both internally but also to the international stakeholders or audience, if you can't get that word out, you can't tell the people what you need.
Yes.
So when you've got donors saying, I want to be able to give you tarpaulins or sanitation kits, but you haven't got that list out, it kind of scampers the whole thing. So communications is absolutely key. Again, we've moved towards making sure that our communication system, both on island, obviously the radio systems have been a significant increase there, and usability and operability is really increased this year with DPSC. They've been working very hard on that. But again, other forms. So the SAT phones we're testing regularly. The Governor's Office have a really good VSAT system.
Okay.
And again, that's a really good, robust system that if everything else goes down, that really shouldn't go down. But also, we're working with the Amateur Radio Club, and I think that's a really good... Again, there's such an asset to us. If we do need the Morse code back, bring it back, well, that's, let's get every form of communication that we possibly need and hopefully one of them or two of them or a few of them will work. Also going on that, with more, I guess, focusing on sudden onset, we are rolling out our early notification radio interrupt system very soon. This is coming out this month. So we finalised, I think the last station came on board last night at about 8 o'clock, so it's really hot off the press. So we've got 16 or 17 stations now that we can do this radio interrupt, and we will be doing that, rolling that out this month.
Okay.
And again, it's just an alert really for sudden onset more so than slow onset, but it's another great additional tool to make sure people can get notifications.
Okay. They can follow you on your various social media pages for more information on that? Or
yeah, we have social media, obviously, Twitter, Facebook, but also our website, www.caymanprepared.ky.
Okay. Now let's talk about changes. Hazard management has changed. I think there's a new command center now, or there's a location where the location is. During a hurricane, where would that be?
So we moved from the fire station, which we realized was not the most suitable place for such an operation, and we have moved to the government building. So with this, we have a ready-to-go call center where the Cadet Corps would be our call takers. So what they would do is that any calls that come in, they would man the phones, take the information, and then disseminate this to all of the ESCs that are responsible for that task. And this ensures that not only do we have the space, but we have an area that all different stakeholders can come and be in one room and can communicate, rather than, we're in separate locations and there's a disconnect in information going to one another. So this just helps to make the response and recovery more fluid and efficient and effective, and all the government officials that need the information can easily get that within, the blink of an eye or the click of a finger.
Now, you all are actually still keeping it on communication. You're all competing with people in social media and the power of a smartphone and videos and all that. Have you amended or adjusted even maybe your protocols so that people will know this is the correct information? How are you able to compete with that?
Well, we do push that. Look to our Facebook page as well as our Cayman Prepared page for accurate information. And by having persons from the police, health services, DEH, as well as GIS, all within the joint communication services, this ensures that one message goes out to the public, so you're not getting false information. But once it comes from our page or our website, you should know that this is accurate information.
Or the preferred station, number one station.
Radio Cayman, my apologies.
You're in tune to Radio Cayman's Business Buzz. I'm your host, Sabrina Turner, as we put the spotlight in hearing from the departments, Royal Cayman Islands Police Service and Hazard Management Cayman, discussing hurricane preparedness and what roles they play, along with what your responsibilities are as a member of society, and letting us know what other government agencies and stakeholders also play a role. We will take a break. When we come back, we'll talk more about pets and animals. People make that decision to stay home, not seek proper shelter, because shelters don't accept pets. I know I'm going to be corrected by that, because I know, yes. So for all of the pet owners out there, you got to keep it locked to the Business Buzz for more when we come back.
Oh gosh.
Don't let the stress of taking care of loved ones get you down.
Home care, now made easier with Cayman Medical Supplies. 100% Caymanian owned Cayman Medical Supplies now stocks a wide range of home care supplies. Hospital beds, all types of wheelchairs, including beach access wheelchairs, lifts, commodes, shower chairs, walkers, Curad brand orthopedic supplies. Free blood glucose monitors with the purchase of 1 pack of test strips, blue underpads, and a whole lot more.
Need home care convenience? Drop by Cayman Medical Supplies at 93 Smith Road, Windward Center, or call 949-6211. Free delivery.
Homeowners, protecting your family and property is crucial during the season, and you should always assess insurance needs long before a storm makes landfall. Most insurers won't issue policies when a storm is imminent. Cayman Insurance Center's team of professionals can help owners like you find the most comprehensive coverage and competitive rates. Call Michael Webster today at 925-5433 or Denise Brown at 814-7229. Don't take chances with your family's future or your valuable assets. Call Michael and Denise today at Cayman Insurance Center.
Hi
Cayman. Born and raised in Central Georgetown, I am 25-year-old Mahalia Seymour, your contestant number 1 in this year's Miss Cayman Islands Universe pageant. I'm an advocate for mental health awareness and a speaker for the silent voices that are afraid to be heard. That's why I'm delighted to have the Alex Panton Foundation as our platform for this year. Being a dog mom, I have become obsessed with Cayman salt life, enjoying long walks on the beach filled with millions of selfies, of course, which has allowed me to partner with an eco-friendly organization, 4 Oceans, that helps to eliminate the amount of single-use plastics overtaking our oceans. I look forward to seeing you all at the Ritz-Carlton on August 17th for the big night. See you then.
Welcome back to the Business Buzz, the business topics that matter, an insightful and fresh take on a variety of issues that impact the local business environment. Business Buzz.
Welcome back to the Business Buzz, learning more about the law enforcement aspects and hurricane preparedness. I am pleased to have in studio with me RCIPS and Hazard Management Cayman. Telling us more is Ms. Danny Coleman, Director of HMCI, Ms. Teresita De Silva, Acting Deputy, and Ms. Jody Ann Powery, Police Media Officer. The Business Buzz would not be possible without the continued sponsorship of Cayman Medical Supplies and Cayman Insurance Center. Now let's talk about shelters, pets, animals that people may have. Before long, you were not allowed to bring pets. That has changed, I understand.
Yes, it has.
Give us some new information.
Well, we've done a significant amount of work in partnership with Department of Agriculture, specifically Samantha Dorman, who's helped us tremendously in, identifying how to set up a pet shelter, what protocols and guidelines that we should be using to ensure that, the shelterees aren't affected and the pets aren't affected, and that we keep them segregated, because that's one of the main concerns that shelterees have, that they'll be in the same area as a pet. And we've made sure that the shelterees are still our main priority. Their safety is our priority. So what we've done, we've looked at Clifton Hunter as well as John Gray High School gymnasiums. And these are ideal spots for us to have a pet shelter because of their locker rooms. Mm-hmm. So we've identified the locker rooms as shelters for the pets. That way the pets are separated by a hallway. So no one has to come in contact with them. If you do not like animals, if you have allergies, you'll be in a separate location from the pets, and you won't even know they're there because you don't have to, come into any kind of contact with them. And we've also worked with St. Matthew's University as well as the Veterinary Association to try and identify persons that could be volunteers. Okay. Because we do want to house the pets, but we want to make sure that if anything goes wrong, we have persons there that can assist rather than, just having the pets in a separate room with no one monitoring them. Mm-hmm. So we've worked with them to try and figure out, how that would look, what teams would be there, so that not only are the shelteries safe, but that the pets are safe as well. Because during times like this, we do see that animals their behavior changes quite a bit, and they get very anxious and they start barking, and they're just out of their element. They can sense that something's taken place. So we're trying to make sure that all measures are in place so that when we do have shelters when we do have pets in these shelters, that there's no issues. We have everything in place. We have the equipment in place. Persons that come in can enter from a separate door, and persons who have animals can be entered through a separate location to keep them completely separate. But we were quite elated that we do have these shelters, because it's been a big issue that a lot of persons will not leave their homes if they don't have somewhere to go. I mean, I have a pet, and my husband will not leave the house if we can't take her, and I'm not going to leave him. So something needs to. Yes,
you will, because you're the National Emergency Operations.
Well, he's going to come with me.
But no, I think, as Teresita says, pets are a part of all our lives. Mm-hmm. We really do. They're part of the family. So making sure that we can accommodate pets has been a really good stepping stone for us. There are quite strict requirements. Now, obviously, we don't want to make we want to make sure that the actual, obviously, the space itself is very segregated. But, if you are going to bring an animal into a shelter, and it's cats and dogs at this stage,
I wanted you to define
elephants or horses
or cows.
Or cows, or that. But we do, you are expected to have a cage and leashes and bowls and food and so forth. And anyone who's interested in bringing an animal, I would strongly suggest they look at the requirements on our website. Again, under www.caymanprepared.ky.
Now, one may perceive that a pet is a single pet. What happened to those adorable animal lovers that has 2-3 dogs?
again, it's a sort of first come, first serve.
Okay.
So
we're not limiting.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we're not going to separate the family and leave the bad kids at home. But at the same time, it's first come, first serve. Okay. So it's a space, but a lot of people do have animals, so you have to consider activating earlier.
Yes.
If you do have animals.
Now, where do we currently stand for the total number of shelters across all 3 islands?
Okay.
And can you say where they are, please?
Okay, I'm going to pass it on to Teresita, but we have 16 now. The Red Cross is coming back on in September.
Okay.
They've obviously had some quite significant changes there, bringing it up to code and so forth, or better code. And we're still very short. I mean, at the end of the day, we have about 8% of the population that can be go to public shelters. So we really do encourage people to consider what other options they have. We work very closely with private entities as well, so that whilst they wouldn't open their doors to the public, they will open their doors to their own staff members. So we've been doing training shelter management teams in public entities, also helping them with other arrangements. Excellent. So we're trying to sort of find solutions to the problem that we've sort of had for some time. One very exciting development next year will be John Gray will increase significantly, and we hope to house about 5,000 people there.
Nice.
So that's going to be brilliant for next year. But again, this year we're still trying to find sort of solutions, and they are band-aid solutions to a bigger problem. But we are very much
making a start.
We're making a start and making sure that we can do what we can.
So in Georgetown, there's a capacity of 3,120 with John Gray Gymnasium, Georgetown Primary School Assembly Hall, the UCCI Hall, Red Cross Building once it's back up and operational, and Prospect Primary School. And Prospect Primary is an emergent medical center. So what this is that persons who have medical issues, this would be a shelter that they would want to go to if they're in that area, because they will have persons from HSA there. So they can provide any assistance if you have breathing issues, or if you're on some type of medication or some type of equipment, you can go there if it's not as severe that you need to go to the hospital.
And sorry, just to interrupt very quickly, the EMCs that Teresita will talk about, they all have mental health professionals as well.
Okay.
So we've recognised that as a bit of an issue, and I know it's come up on the radio before of callers calling in about that, and it is a significant issue. And again, talking about mental health, it's not just obvious mental health. I mean, my grandparents had Alzheimer's, and I know they would have been very uncomfortable being put into a public shelter in the normal. So we're looking at mapping quiet rooms in these EMCs to make sure that there's a space for all different types of mental health issues.
Okay. And in West Bay, there's John A. Cumber Primary School, some of the classrooms, as well as the hall, which is an EMC as well, and John Gray Memorial Church Hall with a capacity of 625 in West Bay. In East End, there's William Allen McLaughlin Civic Center, and that's an EMC, and Gun Bay Community Center, and with a capacity of 305 in East End. In North Side, there's Cradock Ebank Civic Center, which is an EMC as well, and Clifton Hunter High School Gymnasium, which is also an EMC. So that's great that they have 2 in that area. And there's a capacity of 815 in North Side. For Bordentown is Bordentown Primary School Multipurpose Hall, EMC. Breakers Community Hall and Savannah Primary School, which is also an EMC, and it's a capacity of 255 in Savannah, in Bordentown area. In Cameron Brack, we have Aston Ruddiest Center, which is also an EMC, West End Primary School, and the Multipurpose Hall, and it's a capacity of 1,052 in total. And in Little Cayman, we have Public Works Department Building, which is an EMC, and that's a capacity of 140. So it's great to identify what shelter is nearest to you, because that's part of the whole preparation and preparing with your family, so that when something does happen, you're not thinking of, what you're going to do, where you're going to go, but you have your plan that if a hurricane or if there's any type of threat, you know where the nearest shelter is.
And just to add, sorry, when I said 8%, that's actually Grand Cayman. Cayman Brac, we have 50%, which is awesome, and Little Cayman almost 100%.
Yeah.
So we're really happy with that. But again, the only current animal shelters coming out this year is John Gray and Clifton Hunter.
Okay. And EMC, that acronym is Emergency Medical Centers.
Yeah,
so when you hear EMC, that is those who would have medical personnel on hand.
Yeah. Sorry, all shelters will have a Red Cross volunteers team. So they do have first aid, but it's not full medical, whereas the EMCs have trained doctors and full team.
So this is where we would partnership with the Health Service Authority, and they would send their teams to the EMCs.
And also, Sabrina, just to note as well, law enforcement officers will also be at all these shelters, just to maintain order at the shelters, because, with so many people in one place, there's bound to be some kind of disagreements here and there. So we'll be there as well to ensure that not only that they're safe, but to ensure that everything goes in good order.
And actually, in addition to that, I mean, that's a really key point, that the team itself consists of, the shelter management team is police, it's public works, it's first aiders from Red Cross. It's also we have a child protection officer in our shelters, because we really know that's also an issue. So we're trying to make sure that the teams themselves encompass the right specialties to make sure that we are encompassing every possible eventuality. But the RCIPS play a fundamental role in those shelters.
Okay. Now let's talk about the rules, because it's one thing of coming. We don't want you to bring your entire home, because it's limited space in these shelters. You may hear the amount of persons that each shelter may be able to accommodate. But if you notice, it said persons, not your king-size bed, not your big 52-inch TV screen. What are the rules?
So we recommend that persons bring their own preparedness items. So where you may have, your big stash at home, we ask that you just bring a portion of that to last until the event is over. And there's no smoking, no drinking, no loud music, no dangerous substances, no dangerous weapons inside of the shelters.
And that includes a Swiss Army knife. So a multi-purpose tool you think you can take into a shelter, you can't, because it's, again, it can be considered a knife.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would say just the basic items you would need. So a pillow, a sleeping bag, or even like a cot that doesn't take up a lot of space. So just be sensible about the things that you bring to the shelter, because we're trying to make sure that we get the maximum amount of persons inside of the shelter to save lives. I know you may not be comfortable, but at the end of the day, the shelter is there to save lives. It's not a hotel.
Yeah. And again, that's a good point. Talking of hotels, we are going to be working with the hotels to make sure that, tourists, obviously, if we only have 8% of the population that we can house for sheltering, it's going to be very difficult to add to that burden with tourists. So they're the first, obviously, to evacuate the island, because a lot of the hotels do close down. But at the same time, we really need to consider, if you are going to a shelter, make sure you're packing very, very lightly, because the chances are, whilst we have the capacity at whatever number it is, it often exceeds that in reality.
All right. This is Radio Cayman's Business Buzz, which is brought to you by these fine sponsors, Cayman Insurance Centre and Cayman Medical Supplies. Our guest is Miss Jody Ann Powery, Police Media Officer, and of the RCIPS, Hazard Management Director, Miss Danielle Coleman, and Miss Teresita De Silva, Acting Deputy of HMCI. We'll take a break. When we come back, going on to a topic that is very dear to me. We're going to talk about certs. And also share with you some additional hurricane preparedness tips and situational dashboard mapping, which is also something new and that I think our listening and viewing audience needs to hear and know more about. So keep it locked to the Business Buzz for more after these few messages.
Oh gosh.
Don't let the stress of taking care of loved ones get you down.
Home care, now made easier with Cayman Medical Supplies. 100% Caymanian owned. Cayman Medical Supplies now stocks a wide range of home care supplies. Hospital beds, all types of wheelchairs, including beach access wheelchairs, lifts, commodes, shower chairs, walkers, Curad brand orthopedic supplies. Free blood glucose monitors with the purchase of 1 pack of test strips, blue underpads, and a whole lot more.
Need home care convenience? Drop by Cayman Medical Supplies at 93 Smith Road, Windward Center, or call 949-6211. Free delivery.
Homeowners, protecting your family and property is crucial during the season, and you should always assess insurance needs long before a storm makes landfall. Most insurers won't issue policies when a storm is imminent. Cayman Insurance Center's team of professionals can help owners like you find the most comprehensive coverage and competitive rates. Call Michael Webster today at 925-5433 or Denise Brown at 814-7229. Don't take chances with your family's future or your valuable assets. Call Michael and Denise today at Cayman Insurance Center.
At Kirk's Home Center, we can make your life This week at Kirk Home Center, bask in summer shade with a 9-foot standing umbrella for $89.99 and base for $63.29. Enjoy a coffee, tea, or beverage on your patio with a 3-piece Avalon Bistro set, 2 folding chairs and a table for $149.99. Save on Black & Decker's Drill and Project Kit, including 66 hand tools and accessories for $114.99.
Kirk's Home Center, you got a great deal in store for you.
Hi, K-Man. Born and raised in Central Georgetown, I am 25-year-old Mahalia Seymour, your contestant number 1 in this year's Miss Kim and Islands Universe pageant. I'm an advocate for mental health awareness and a speaker for the silent voices that are afraid to be heard. That's why I'm delighted to have the Alex Panton Foundation as our platform for this year. Being a dog mom, I've become obsessed with K-Man Salt Life, enjoying long walks on the beach filled with millions of selfies, of course, which has allowed me to partner with an eco-friendly organization, 4 Oceans, that helps to eliminate the amount of single-use plastics overtaking our oceans. I look forward to seeing you all at the Ritz-Carlton on August 17th for the big night. See you then.
Welcome back to the Business Buzz, the business topics that matter, an insightful and fresh take on a variety of issues that impact the local business environment. Business Buzz.
Welcome back to the Business Buzz, keeping the spotlight and hearing more from the RCIPS and Hazard Management discussing hurricane preparedness. Before I go into one of my favorite topics, CERTs, let's talk about hurricane preparedness tips. As part of HMCI mission to ensure the highest level of hurricane preparedness for the people of the Cayman Islands, your department has been offering important preparedness tips each week through this hurricane season. Can you share with us, some of those this morning?
Sure, I would love to. So one of the tips that we try to push is to reinforce your homes. Make sure you do a proper assessment of your home to see if there are any weaknesses in the structure, in the frame, or anything like that, and just try to reinforce it, whether it's getting shutters, changing out the doors or the windows, or looking to see if you have proper hurricane straps or adding hurricane straps to your roof, because this can really determine whether your roof stays or if it goes during a hurricane. We also want persons to get informed, which is what you're doing right now, but we also have our Facebook page that puts out tips every week, as well as our caymanprepare.ky page that has information weekly or every single day. And during the hurricane season, or if there's an event that's taking place, we will have up-to-date information on storm tracking, predictions, and anything you need to know about a storm, or even about, any weather event. It could be a northwester, cold front. We always have information on this page. We also want persons to take photos of your home in the event that something does happen, that you have photos of, the items that were there, how your home looked prior to the event, and this can really help with your insurance claim.
Yes, it does.
So make sure you have insurance. Don't think that, it's not necessary, but insurance is a key factor to ensure that you're able to bounce back after a hurricane or flooding or any type of natural or man-made event. Insurance is essential for you.
And talking of photocopies, making sure you have your passports, your birth certificate, your marriage certificate, whatever it is, those important critical documents, have those photocopied and have them scanned somewhere on a USB stick or something that you've got that soft copy, because I know after Ivan we had all sorts of problems trying to find passports, and it really wasn't fun, because if you do need to get away, especially if it's a medical emergency or something, it's very difficult. You don't want to have to be dealing with those kind of issues then.
And also as we were talking about shelters prior to this, it's important that you identify the nearest shelter. If your area is a flood-prone area, or if you feel as though your home will not withstand a Category 1, 2, 3, no matter what it is, if you don't feel as though your home will be safe, identify the nearest shelter prior to an event, so that as soon as the warning goes out from HMCI or even the watch, you're starting to prepare to head to those shelters.
And one of the things that I wanted to go back to is the insurance aspect of it, Sabrina, because a lot of times persons don't actually, they know that they pay insurance, but they don't know what it covers. So make sure that you know what your insurance covers, and make sure that disasters are one of those things, and flooding is one of those things. And also note the difference between property insurance and content insurance, because it wasn't until after Ivan that people really took notice to what they were paying for in insurance.
No, I have a really bad story about that, and I shouldn't be admitting this on the radio because I am hazard management. But I remember after Hurricane Dean, or when Dean was approaching, and I realised that the content insurance wasn't up to date. So of course, and I live in a wooden house, a wooden frame house. Oh, I did then, and running to every insurance company begging, because it was coming the next day, 2 days, begging and pleading to give them content insurance, and they all just laughed in my face, and rightly so, rightly so. And they said, "Come back next week if the house is still standing." And I just remember it ever since then. I'm like, okay, make sure my content insurance is completely up to date, and do it in blue skies, not when something's approaching.
And content insurance, you don't have to be a homeowner. You can get contents insurance even if you're a renter, which is a smart thing to do.
Yeah. And, you know, like, especially for my husband, because he loves electronics. He's the video game king, and so, like, his stuff has to be insured. Like, it really does.
And in Ziploc bags, hopefully, as well.
Yeah. Now let's get on to CERTs.
Oh, we love CERTs.
Community Emergency Response Team. What are their roles and responsibilities of members of these groups?
Again, the CERT team training it's a 32-hour training, which consists of search and rescue, fire suppression, fire safety, first aid. Again, in addition to 32 hours, so 38 hours with first aid. We've got damage assessment. We've got
psychosocial support.
Psychosocial. There's so many aspects, and it's an all-rounded course. So it's a sort of disaster 101. If you learning everything you need to know about disasters in that 40 hours. But again, as part of the national emergency response, the CERT teams are absolutely critical to our response. We rely so heavily on them because, one, they know their communities way better than we do, but they're also in there. They're the ones that living it, that they can, really help with that response. So we really do a big shout out to all CERT teams because they are such a valuable resource for the whole response.
Yep. They're essentially the first persons on the ground, and they can feed information back to the NEOC structure immediately and allow us to make, educated decisions in the aftermath rather than trying to figure out, what does it look like on the ground. CERT teams can do the damage assessment and get information back so we can know which communities are affected the most. So they're essential and very key players in the emergency response team, and they do assist with light search and rescue with the fire services. So they can do that until first responders can get to the community, because what we saw after Ivan is that, communities were cut off from the main town, and it took a while for first responders to get out to them. So by having CERT teams within major districts, it helps us and helps the community.
Okay. Now the latest, when you look at the amount of teams that you have of CERTs now, thinking back on when it started and where we are today.
Yeah, we've come a long way. I think we have now 6-7 teams. We have a big team in the BRAC. We had 52 trained last year. We've just finished the Savannah CERT team training, and we have about 10 there. Prospect obviously is a super brilliantly team. We do a great job. Again, we have West Bay is a good team.
North Sound Gardens
is a fantastic team, and they were sort of our original after Bedford, Belford. But Windsor Park and Northside we're still trying to re-engage with. But again, it's a really good sort of cross-section of the community. We do hope to get to Little Cayman this year.
Excellent.
And we're also looking at other options as well. So we do, constantly try and find new teams. So if there's a community out there that are interested in becoming a CERT, please contact us because, again, we'd love to hear from you and we'd love to train you and make sure you're part of the whole response.
There we go. We hope we never ever have to execute what but we prefer to do those challenges.
Yeah, and that's true.
We don't ever hope to deal with the real situation.
But that's true. Going back to that, again, we hope that never happens. But if it doesn't happen,
at least you know.
And we work very closely to ensure they're sustainable. So again, Terraceda's worked very hard with Eddie from the Red Cross recently to make sure there's an offering every month to current CERT teams so that they can get engaged. So be it radio communications, be it suspicious activity with the RCIPS, or CUC has been helping us with electrical safety. And we, again, every month we try and offer another training that's not mandatory, but again can refine your skills.
Now let's explain what is the situational dashboard mapping. What is that?
Sure. So with our amazing mitigation officer, Mark Codling, we've been using this new, software that can help us to map the island. So what it does is it allows us to see where all of our shelters are, the capacity of them, the areas or the homes and communities that are within that area. So if something were to happen, we can zoom into that specific area and see how many persons would be affected. And this can help the NEOC to make decisions in terms of how to distribute water, what roads to take, diversions that we can make. We've used it for Kaboo, which it was an amazing tool to track the traffic. So we could see where there were bottlenecks, how to divert that, where to increase the flow or decrease the flow. We've also used it for the
Royal Visit
as well. So it's a very multiverse tool that we have. We're now using it to map the critical infrastructures on the island, whether it's CUC, Water Authority. There's also trying to map the vertical evacuation. So we're looking at buildings that are 2 stories and higher, and this can help with earthquake evacuation, tsunami evacuation, and also for hazardous areas such as home gas and Seoul, we can identify evacuation zones, because that's one of the key things that was kind of lacking in our response to the Seoul fire. Was we weren't sure what the evacuation zone should be. So by identifying the types of contents at these areas, we can identify, what the evacuation zone should be in the event of any specific explosion or incident. So this really helps not only us, but it can help the private partnership, and as well as the first responders to know, okay, well, if it's at this location, we know this is the evacuation zone. This is the critical infrastructures in that area. These are all the shelters that, okay, we can't go to this shelter because it's within the evacuation zone. Yeah. We have to take the hospital. If the hospital needs to be evacuated, we know how far to evacuate those persons. So it really helps us with making decisions in the event of something happening.
And again, going back to the partnerships, I mean, the Kaboo event and the Royal Visit was very much a close collaboration between RCRPS, Mr. Roger, and ourselves. So that's been really good. A couple of other things we use it for. We've been working with MRCU. So if by chance there's some kind of dengue outbreak or chikungunya or whatever it might be, we can map those areas. We've been on an oil spill training with Port Authority for the last few days, and we're looking to see how we can map the oil spills, potential drifts and so forth, if and when it happens. But a lot of this work can be done in blue skies, which is why the response can be much more effective in the future.
I can't believe time has ended.
It has.
Yes, it has. And we didn't even touch curfew, state of emergency. We dabbled into it.
Yeah.
But again, as the hurricane season reached its peak, I don't have a problem unless you have another agenda, and if these ladies are available, to follow through on this, because I think it's important to keep it home. I'm not changing your agenda.
No, absolutely not. I think that as it comes into peak season, and we all know that September is a nervous month for us, so I do think that we should, if the ladies are available, to come back. Yeah.
Excellent.
Got the girl power at the radio station.
Yes.
Well, I must say it has been very informative. I want to thank you all for taking time out of your morning to talk and discuss about these collaborations. Maybe we could have another agency, and I don't know that you collaborate with 911 to understand their role as well.
Absolutely.
Because they are critical.
And they are vital.
They're critical as partners go with our early notification system.
Because the first thing, my roof is blowing off, let's call 911. Understanding how far they can take that call. It's one thing, and
absolutely.
But I think this is an excellent plan to take it through for the next time we have you on our show.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
To your loyal listeners and supporters, we want to thank you for joining us every Tuesday and Thursday right here on Radio Cayman for the Business Buzz. We want to thank our kind sponsors, Cayman Medical Supplies. Give them a call, 949-6211. And also Cayman Insurance Center, celebrating 45 years in the Cayman Islands, specializing in property, life, and other lines of insurance products and services. We want to thank our producer, Susan, who's on vacation but still working behind the scenes. And Lynn, thank you so much for manning those boards for us. Until Tuesday, have a safe and fabulous Thursday.
Business Buzz is proudly sponsored by insurance agents Michael Webster and Denise Brown from Cayman Insurance Center, specializing in life and property insurance. Don't take chances with your family's future.